to Wizard World's Would That Fight Scene Work anyways. I'm a Marling, a local-ish author, and performing with me today are two trained certified professionals. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Sydney Thompson. I'm from San Jose with St. Michael's Salle Arms. We do this for fun, and we actually teach people how to do this. We have no idea what he's going to read today, so this should be fun for everyone.
Hi there, my name is Tony Braz. I am also St. Michael's Salle Arms. I'm the fight coordinator for the group, which basically means I get people together to go fight. And again, we have no idea what's going to happen, so this should be fun. And first 3 rows of the gallows rows, so you're going to get splattered with blood. Just letting you know.
Do we have the first aid kit on hand?
It's in the car.
Well, we can staunch it until then. Okay, so for this first one, I believe we decided it's going to be a little safer down.
Yes.
Down it.
You read it.
Okay, so this first scene is from. Well, this first scene is going to be from Legacy by R.A. Salle, and I'm going to be reading a variety of scenes describing what are very effective or very interesting and powerful sword fight scenes in fantasy novels, or fantasy novels primarily. And of course, as mentioned, as advertised, this is a ridiculous thing to do, because what works well on the page and what is memorable and powerful may not translate very well to in-action fighting, or maybe it will, and we'll be pleasantly surprised. But I hope they don't all translate precisely. But again, this is not what the author intended. Was not necessary to have it performed in live action. So if we laugh or we enjoy ourselves, we're not laughing at the author or the author's good work. We're laughing at our interpretation, which is definitely unconscionable. So this first one involves 2 combatants. First, the renegade Drister. The second, the deadly assassin Artemis Entreri, armed with his life-draining dagger and his, oh, you need a long sword as well. Oh. And so Drist, these 2 are deadly enemies, of course. And wanted to, as all great blade masters do, they want to test their skills. Well, at least Artemis Entreri wants to test his skills against Drister to hunt and dash. Now, Drist has 2 scimitars, which are going to be represented by these side swords. Does anyone know the names of those 2 scimitars? Twinkle is one, very good. What's the other one? Icy Death, very good, very good. So before I begin, I have one question. How many writers do we have in the group? And just gauge how interested I was. Okay, so a few. So one of the things I'll be doing is pointing out some things which are effective in terms of writing these scenes. R.A. Salle tends to choreograph his scenes. He's got a lot of D&D flowing in his blood, so he sees these action scenes with a lot of precision. He's going to want to make sure that he wants to make sure that we perform his moves as intended, and not very much. Okay, so I don't want to get too so I'll be pointing as best I can. So again, Entreri, the Dread Assassin, is on your right, and our hero Drist is on your left. Okay. Entreri went into a spin, imitating Drist's movements in their previous 2 encounters, working his 2 blades like the edge of a screw to force Drist back to a narrower position of the ledge. So you are spinning around, sir. Yes? Yes. Drist, you're surprised.
I'm surprised.
No, you're surprised that the assassin had learned this daring and difficult maneuver so completely after only 2 observations. Now, we're going to pause for a moment here.
Thank you.
Are you going to tell me? Can I move this down? I'm a little bit nervous. All right, okay. It's perfectly safe now. Okay. All right. Drist was surprised the assassin had learned this daring maneuver. And it was a move that Drist had designed, and he knew how to counter it. Okay, so please come in with your...
This is possible.
Can this be on the stage? You prefer to be on the stage? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll try.
All right. Okay, how much do you like this?
We are not attached to it.
Okay. Very good. All right. So you're advancing with your spinning death. Remember corkscrews.
No spinning death.
Now you know the counter. You went to Drist. You are also going to the spinning rotation. please. Scimitars flowing up and down. So, no. I feel your arms are more outstretched than that, though. I feel like, one on either side, like a windmill, maybe. Okay, well, let me just interpret this. Okay, I saw them outstretched like that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Good idea.
Scimitars are supposed to be a little bit shorter than this, so clearly that's the problem.
Okay.
Go back to the side.
Okay. The representations of Drist, he does have scimitars. They're not like huge falchions. They're the more precision dexterity, almost dexterity-based elements.
Wardrobe change.
Okay, this makes far more sense now. So again, you're coming in with your spinning death, and you're going to counter with it flowing up and down. It's also let's see. Sometimes lighting sparks in the dark night, the metal screeching green and blue, mixing an indistinct blur. Drist move right by each other. You're passing each other by.
We're passing each other by.
You're two sword fighters passing the night. The assassin. Okay, Contrary, you see that you've been countered, so you have to reverse your spin. 1 minute. This should be to your advantage. Now, Drist, you see the shift. Very good. Drist, you saw the shift and came to a stop. Both, okay, I apologize. So you had reversed the attack. Yes. Now, you saw the shift and you spin the other direction and block both blades.
Yeah, I think so.
Very good. Very good. Now,
You almost lost your fingers.
all right. It looks like you would have wished for this to have stopped, and an amicable conclusion to this, but no, in fact, Contrary is spinning the other direction. Let's see if I'm remember. Yes.
Like this?
Drist began once more, counter to Contrary, and this time, when Contrary turned his rotation back the other way, the drow, you're the drow, Drist is the drow, anticipated so fully that he actually reversed directions first. So Contrary, you're going to be reversing directions, but you will be anticipating reversing directions first. This should be, as trained fighters, I expect to be able to understand. So, okay, why don't you start spinning one way, you start spinning one way, now reverse.
I'll lick.
Now, okay, I think what you shouldn't get this nice pair. I think this is too clean. So, you're spinning, and you haven't come to the full parry stop. And then you're going to reverse directions, but you're also going to reverse directions at the same time.
Okay, so I got it.
You're spinning. I'm spinning. And then we're gonna reverse direction. Okay, yeah, sure. Ready, go.
Thank you. They stopped in unison a few feet apart. Okay, so back apart. No, I think you can put your swords down.
Oh, that was fun.
That there would be no end to that spinning dance, no advantage to either player. Very good. That seems utterly reasonable to me. So, let's see. I brought up this scene in part because it was something so remarkable that I remembered it even 10 years later. So when I started doing this series, I've done it a few cons now. That was one I knew I needed to reproduce, and I'm glad it came off so well. But the memorability makes it a powerful moment. All right, this next scene is going to be from The Great Hunt, Book 2 of the World Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. It's going to be when Randall Thor fights the Blade Master. So let's see, I think it's only fair that you be the hero this time, and you be the Blade Master. Now, one thing to know about the Blade Master, his name is Turek, is that he has exceptionally long fingernails. So you can't represent this, but each fingernail should probably be at least 10 inches long. Okay, and then Rand is, of course, our hero. And before I begin this, I do need to, for those who have not read this series, Rand can enter a mode of higher concentration, which he calls the void. And there's various ways that authors can immerse the reader into a fight scene. When you see a fight scene on the screen or in live audience, it's immediately engaging. You're immersed in the pumping music, the clash metal. When you're reading it, there are various ways the author can try to engage you and allow you to see who is going to be victorious. If the author just says, well, and then suddenly the other guy was stabbed and killed, you're like, wait, why exactly did that happen? I'm not sure I really believe that or think it was a justified death. So there are various ways that the author can show you who's winning, and this technique of allowing you to enter the void or not is going to help us understand why we're going to be able to turn the tide. So this is a nice narrative technique. Okay, Turok, wait a minute. I suspected it might come to you and me. Turok spun his blade easily, a full circle, one way, then the other, his long nailed fingers moving delicately on the hilt. His fingernails did not seem to hamper him at all. You are young, Turok said. Let us see what is required to earn the Heron on this side of the ocean. Turok, pardon, Heron just means a blade master. It's something a blade master would have. So they have Herons on their blade. Okay, Turok glided toward him on silent feet. Okay. Blade rang on blade like hammer on an anvil. From the first, it was clear to Rand that the man was testing him, pushing only hard enough to see what he could do. So just then pushing a little harder, then just a little harder still.
Rewind.
It was
okay. Push a little harder, ready?
All right. It was quick wrists, quick feet that kept Rand alive as much as skill. Without the void, he was only half a heart rate.
Rewind.
So maybe don't push him quite as hard. But we understand the goal. I ask a lot of you, I know. All right, so Rand, you were always half a heartbeat behind. The tip of Turok's heavy sword made a stinging trench under your left eye. So Turok hit him under his left eye. No need to be too careful about this. And then the next hit, a flap of coat sleeve hung away from his shoulder, the darker for being wet.
Oh, cool.
As you'd expect. Under a neat slash beneath his right arm, precise as a tailor's cut, you could feel warm dampness spreading down his ribs. There was disappointment on the Lord's face. He stepped back with a gesture of disgust. Where did you find that blade, boy? Or do they here truly award the Heron to those with no more skill than you? No matter. Make your peace. It is time to die. You came on again. So clearly we see now that the Blade Master is winning. So something has to happen narratively before we'll accept that he wins as the character. So at this point, I'm going to skip over a little bit, but the short of it is that he enters the void, his heightened sense of concentration. Rand recognized the forms the High Lord used. They were a little different from what he had been taught, but not enough. Okay, pause for a moment. Those who are familiar with Robert Jordan will know that he uses almost lyrical phrases to describe the fight, the action scenes, the choreographed scenes that the fighters engage in now. Whereas R.A. Salvatore would specifically attempt to describe everything for you. And that's very effective if you have a good imaginative repertoire. Robert Jordan's going to do something else, which is the function being to try to speed you through the fight scene, give you an idea that something's happening, but not necessarily spend paragraphs and paragraphs to do it. The way he does it is a little bit crazy. So, okay. Let's see. We're going to have to decide who's doing what attack. You recognize the forms. Okay, so you're going to lead then. So you're now, as a trained professional sword fighter, I'd expect you to know this attack. Okay, the attack is called the Swallow Takes Flight. Okay, all right, acceptable. Okay, meets the parting of the silk. So you're doing the parting of the silk. Okay, swallow takes flight. Parting of the silk. Very good. Now you're doing moon on the water meets the wood grouse dances. So moon on the water meets the wood grouse dances.
You missed.
Okay, well that's acceptable.
Dancing.
It sounds like it's, I mean, with moon for dancing, I'd expect some sort of footwork, so very good. So do you want to do that again? Moon on the water meets wood grouse dances.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Here it comes.
Wonderful. Okay, Turok, you're doing ribbon in the air met stones falling from the cliff. Turok is so aggressive. It's hard.
Okay. Well, ribbon in the air.
Ribbon in the air meets stone falling from the cliff. They moved about the room as in a dance, and their music was steel against steel. Disappointment and disgust faded from Turok's dark eyes, replaced by surprise and concentration. Sweat appeared on the High Lord's face, that's Turok, and he pressed ran harder. Okay, here we are. Turok, you're doing lightning of 3 prongs. Meets leaf on the breeze. Lightning on 3 prongs meets leaf on the breeze. Maybe 3 short sleeves? Wait. Leaf, you're a leaf on the breeze.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Lightning of 3 prongs.
Thrust? Seriously?
But Rand's thoughts floated outside the void. Apart from himself, hardly noticed. It was not enough. He faced the Blades Master with the void and every ounce of his skill. He was barely managing to hold his own. He had to end it before Turok finally did. And now you're attacking. Turok's eyes widened as Rand glided forward. So far he had only defended. Now he attacked. Rand, you are using the renowned attack skill, Boar Rushes Down the Mountain. Very good. Every movement of his blade was an attempt to reach the High Lord. Now Turok could do only retreat. He could only retreat and defend down the length of the room, almost to the door. So you're pressed against the wall. All right. So I think Boar rushes down the mountain. In an instant, while Turok still faced the boar, Rand charged. Okay, this is your finishing move. The river undercuts the bank. The river undercuts the bank. Now, the secret is, this is something which is so important, Robert Jordan even describes it in the next sentence, so we'll see how close they get.
Alright. I think I know what you're going to do.
So, okay. Oh, yes. Yes. As described, he dropped to one knee, blades slashing across. He did not need Turok's gasp or to feel the resistance his cut to know. He heard 2 thumps and turned his head, knowing what he would see. He looked down the length of his blade, wet and red, to where the High Lord lay. Sword tumbled from his limp hand, no mention of the fingernails. A dark dampness staining the birds woven in the carpet under his body. Turok's eyes were open, but already filled with death. Very good. So Robert Jordan has a very distinct style. Now, some people have told me that they felt that this lyrical language is a little bit too hard to grasp. So trained sword fighters can definitely interpret this, but it takes a few more mental beats that perhaps people are willing to put into describing these, imagine these fight scenes. But it does give an idea that something's happening while keeping the flow of the battle, intact. Before we go to the next scene, I just want a lot of the times people go into some sort of Zen state in fights. Is this something which is you feel is often done, or what's your opinion on this?
That's a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? Poetic for me. I compete and I fight, and we're actually trying to hit each other and see see the dents on these blades? That's because we really try to hit each other. Okay, by the way, a little closer. Okay, thank you. With that said, there's always concentration as soon as you start to fight. It makes no sense not to bring your best game forward, especially when it's somebody who you have no idea how good they are. And if you know how good they are, you better be on your first game, because they're going to kill you on the very first move or second. So I don't like the metaphor of like you're coming in knowing that you're fighting a really good fighter and just kind of going like, no, don't hurt me.
Now, to be fair to Rando Thor, there was a reason why he did not initially jump into the void. He was trying to resist using magic. But now, so any other well, no, he resisted being such an honorable sword fighter. He did not use his magic in that fight. Now, any more observations before we go on to the next scene?
Oh, go ahead. Go. Which way?
Well, for the reader, I think what I like about the lyrical words is that in your mind, you can imagine any fight you want, and it becomes the battle you see in your head. We're trying to interpret the battle he saw in his head when he wrote it. So I'm not going to criticize him. I think it's just a style of writing that leaves some interpretation up to the reader, and I think that's actually good.
Yeah. And to be fair, even if you look at old treatises, they write for the time. So, for example, there was when I went to do this move, which was bore something. Well, that's a move that actually exists because a bore attacks from the bottom. So, dente de cingale is an Italian term for boritude, which means I'm attacking from the bottom up. Okay, I make that assumption. Thinking bird in the air. Well, okay, we now know that. Yeah, we are now knowing since a bird flies, therefore it must come from the high. So we make that assumption. So we don't know what he's going to say, but we'll make the assumption based on the metaphor that he's using, and hopefully not kill each other in the process.
Very good, thank you. So this next one is going to be a short passage from my own works. We'll need okay. You will not need a blade. You will need the biggest one. Very good. So, as I said, I'm a local-ish author, closer to San Francisco, admittedly. But I love writing fantasy stories, carrying people on journeys of imagination. My battle scenes typically involve mage fights, and even in this case, you will be a sword fighter, Chandra, but you do have some magical powers. In this case, your sword is actually a huge, almost obelisk battering ram of jasper. You have the power to lighten it. I don't believe in non-magical, non-fantasy fights, but so in this case, you're in a tomb, so your ability to swing is somewhat restricted. And in this case, you will be a perfectly reasonable and honorable abomination, which is mostly crocodile hippopotamus. So I think yes, your training is coming in full serving you out here. Okay, crocodile fangs burst from the gloom. Long teeth reflected violet light, gnashing at Chandra's eye level. The thumping stomps of the monster sound more like the charging bull than the shuffling crocodile. It has to be as big as the passage, Chandra thought, and moving fast. Chandra, I guess there's a little more space between you. So yes, this is Chandra. A little bit more separation. I know you're eager. So Chandra decided he sprinted forward to meet it. Standing ground and trying to stop all that momentum seemed foolish to Chandra. And actually, just pause for a moment. So I should say a few things. I picked this scene because it's pretty ridiculous. And as I was writing it, I was like, I'm not sure this is. I have no idea. I toned it down a little bit, but who knows? So first of all, does it seem reasonable that you would charge forward to meet this opponent rather than accepting the charge? So
I would charge an opponent.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it is pretty. I mean, this is a pretty lumbering, large mass of undead flesh. Pardon me, but okay. Now you are swinging the jasper sword not forward, because perhaps I wrote it this way. Give you a little bit of credit. I don't know if this is right. That you don't have enough room to swing it overhand, or maybe you decide that's not the best angle. So you're actually swing it behind you. So you're going to swing it behind you and then arc it forward like so. So he swung the jasper sword back over his shoulder. letting its full weight carry it downward behind him. As he neared the creature, he had an impression of trunk-like legs, sagging black hide, and claws. We need, your teeth are coming to the fore again, so. Okay, very good. The maw bristling, we need the maw. The maw bristling with teeth turned sideways to engulf him. He bolted. A bolt of terror and helplessness passed through Shander, then was gone. He could do nothing but trust in himself, his sword, and his fate. He had already begun to leap. So, in order to get enough clearance to get this long sword under you, you're going to leap into the air. Yes. Okay. The jump gave him the clearance to swing the sword underhand. He lightened it using his magic on it, whipping it forward and he remembered to release his spell to return the wedge to its full weight. The Jasper sword snapped upward. Okay, now you're connecting. The Jasper sword snapped upward and splintered the jaws. The force of the collision ripped off the crocodile's head and powdered half the monster's spine. All right. What's your expert analysis of that scene?
Fight a guy with a magic sword?
Sage.
I like it.
Yeah, this is what I decided against doing. I was going to have him leap into there and then kick the bottom of the sword for additional force, but I decided being a reasonable man not to. All right. I don't say we'll do that. Okay, so this will be the Princess Bride scene. So we want two ratings. All right, now we'll see some parallels to the earlier scene we read by Robert Jordan, in the sense that this scene is very well done in that it allows you, the audience, to participate and understand how the dynamic of this battle is going to go, even though you're not expert fighters yourself. You can't give critical analysis to the different attacks mentioned in the page, but you can understand some of the techniques used to show who is winning. So this is going to be this will be the cliff edge. Actually, we should establish who wants to be Inigo Montoya, who wants to be the man of black.
You should be black.
Okay. Wait. You're
Inigo Montoya.
Yes. You're the Inigo.
You're winning.
Okay. I think that's fair. Being the crocodile last time. All right. So this is the man in black. This is Inigo Montoya. So you're gonna. Okay. So this is going to be the cliff edge. Now the author allows you to see who's losing because their back is going to be close to the cliff edge. The other side is going to be more the bouldery area. So if we talk about obstacles such as boulders or cameras or something like that, it's going to be that side. Now, another technique he does, instead of saying, boulder rushing down hills, he will actually reference names of sword masters, and I will do my utmost to pronounce them correctly. That'll be my own personal challenge. And to give you an idea of things going on, again, without slowing down the narrative too much. All right. You seem a decent fellow, Inigo said. I hate to kill you. You seem a decent fellow, answered the man in black. I hate to die. But one of us must, Inigo said. Begin. And so saying, he took the six-fingered sword, and he put it in his left hand. The man in black was also left-handed, and that warmed Inigo. It made things fairer. His weakness against other man's strength, all to the good. They touched swords.
Not like that.
They touched swords, and the man in black immediately began the Agrippa defense, which Inigo felt was sound, considering the rocky terrain. And for the Agrippa kept the feet stationary at first, and made the chances of slipping minimal. We're gonna pause.
Is that true?
Oh, you mean not living in the Rockies?
Or is the Agrippa defense,
Are these I believe these are actual swordmaster names?
No, actually.
So
They're real sword masters, and you have to take into account your terrain. So You would have a stable footing if you were in a rocky area. I'm sorry, you need a more stable footing in a rocky area. Otherwise, you can lose your balance and then he'll win the fight pretty quickly. So, yeah, that actually.
Very good. So, okay. Naturally, he countered with a capo ferro, which surprised the man in black, but he defended well, quickly shifting out of the grippa and taking the attack himself, using the principles of the T-ball. Inigo had to smile. No one had taken the attack against him in so long, and it was thrilling. He let the man in black advance. Let him build up courage, and Inigo's retreating gracefully between some trees, letting his boniti defense keep him safe from harm. So the trees are over on this side established. So you're letting your boniti defense keep you safe from harm. Then his legs flicked, and he was behind the nearest tree. And the man in black had not expected it, and he was slow reacting. So a lot of this fight needs to be described as a tempo of the language. So some of these things, the choreography is not as intricate as the past one, so I'm going to continue reading a little bit more so. So let's see. The man in black had not expected it. He was slow in reacting. Inigo flashed immediately out from the tree, attacking himself now, and then the man in black had retreated. Stumbled, got his balance, continued moving his way. They were going parallel to the cliffs now, and the trees were behind them mostly. The man in black was slowly being forced toward a group of large boulders. So you wait, the man, you need to switch positions. For Inigo was anxious to see how well he moved when quarters were close, when you could not thrust or parry with total freedom. He continued to force, and then the boulders were surrounding them. Inigo suddenly threw his body against a nearby rock, rebounding off it with stunning force, lunging with incredible speed.
That's your treat, yeah, right?
You're going to end up piercing your left hand. Inigo's going to get the first blood, guys. So Inigo is, yes, lunging and piercing first blood on the left hand. First blood was his. He had picked the man in black, grazed him only along the left wrist, a scratch result, but it was bleeding. Immediately, the man in black hurried his retreat. Yes, his retreat. Getting his position away from the boulders, getting out in the open. So you're in the middle now. Inigo followed, not bothering to try to check the other man's flight. Oh, this is appropriate. Then there would always be time for that later. Then the man in black launched his greatest assault. It came with no warning, and the speed and strength of it were terrifying. His blade flashed in the light again and again, and at first, Inigo was only too delighted to retreat. He was not entirely familiar with his style of attack. It was mostly McBone, but there were snatches of capo ferro thrown in, and he continued moving backward while he concentrated on the enemy, figuring out the best way to stop the assault. The man in black kept advancing. Inigo was aware that behind him now were coming closer and closer to the edge of the cliffs. We'll just say those are the cliff sets, okay? That's cliffish enough. All right, but that could not have concerned him less. The important thing was to outthink the enemy and find his weakness. Let him have his moments of exaltation. Suddenly, the cliffs came ever nearer. Inigo realized the fault in the attack that was flashing at him. The simple T-ball maneuver would destroy it, but he didn't want to give it away too soon. Let the other man have the triumph a moment longer. Life allowed so few. The cliffs were close behind him now. Inigo continued to retreat. The man in black continued advancing. Then Inigo countered with a tie ball.
Okay, step back. Is a thrust to my outside line. Okay, ready, go.
And he countered with a table, and the man in black blocked it. So now you're doing an aggressive attack, and the man in black is blocking.
Oh.
So I guess the table countered, and then you followed that up with an aggressive attack.
Oh, you want parry? Yeah.
And the man in black blocked it. He blocked it. Inigo repeated the T-ball move again, and it didn't work. He switched to capo ferro. He tried bonito. He went to Fabrice.
Oh, Fabrice. Oh, no.
Fabrice. He went to Fabrice. And in desperation, he began to move used only twice by Sant.
Running around!
But there was no dealing with the wizard. And slowly again, the deadly cliffs became a factor in the fight. Only now was the man in black who had been forced to his doom. He was brave, and he was strong, and the cuts did not make him beg for mercy. And he showed no fear behind his black mask. You are amazing, he cried as Inigo increased the already blinding speed of his blade. Thank you. It has not come without effort. The death moment was at hand now. Again and again, Inigo thrust forward, and again the man in black managed to ward off attacks, but each time it was harder, and the strength of Inigo's wrist was endless, and he only thrust them more fiercely, and soon the man in black grew weak. You cannot tell, he said, because I wear a cape and a mask, but I am smiling now. Why? Because I am not left-handed either. And he two switched hands, and now the battle was fully joined, and Inigo began to retreat. Who are you? He screamed. No one of import, another lover of the blade. I must know. Get used to disappointment. They flashed along the open plateau now, and the blades were both invisible, but oh, the earth trembled, and oh, the sky shook, and Inigo was losing. He tried to make up for the trees, but the man in black could have none of it. He tried retreating to the boulders, but he was denied that too. And in the open, unthinkable as it was, the man in black was superior, not by much, but in a multitude of tiny ways. He was slightly higher quality, a hair quicker, a fraction stronger, a speck faster, not really much at all, but it was enough. They met in the central plateau for the final assault. Neither man conceded anything. The sound of metal clashing against metal, a final burst of energy flew through Inigo's veins, and he made every attempt, tried every trick, used every hour of every day of this year's experience, but he was blocked. By the man in black, he was shackled. By the man in black, he was baffled, thwarted, muzzled, beaten. By the man in black. A final flick, and the great six-fingered sword, that's yours, flew from his hand. So you're... Inigo stood there, helpless. Then he dropped to his knees. Inigo dropped to his knees. Do it quickly, he said. May my hands fall from my wrist before I kill an artist like yourself, said the man in black. I would soon destroy Da Vinci. However, and here he clubbed Inigo's hand with the butt of the sword. Since I can't have you follow me either, please understand that I hold you in the highest regards. Thank you. That was a long scene, but it was a very well crafted one in terms of art, in terms of writing the tempo of it from her author's standpoint, the writer's standpoint, the tempo of the words themselves, the way he showed the flow of the combat through the sentence structure, through his choice of words, and then also allowed the readers to participate in it by giving them clues as to who is winning at any given point. It was quite fantastic from a writer's, from a reader's, from an author's perspective. Now for some expert analysis.
Hold your head straight. Stand up.
Oh, very well written.
Just hold that one.
The thing about the masters is that each one of them did have a specific style. The defense itself is, how can I say it? It's all the defenses are the same. It's the application of it. So, for example, when you said Capoferro.
Okay, the Capoferro.
Capoferro's back here. I'm removing my forward target. I'm removing my forward target as far away as possible, and I'm keeping my weapon low here. So if she attacks low, attack leg, leg, boom. That's my defense. But if she wants to come in deep to the head, go ahead. She's going to hit before I do. So that's Capoferro. And for Fabrice. I'm down here.
You literally fought like
Literally like this, because my only target is my head. And it's protected by my sword, so I'm hiding behind it. So as she comes in for a hit, I'll take it in here. So it's not a defense like being mentioned. I'm not going to go into a defense so much as it's a style from where I fight from, not necessarily the defense. The defenses are I'm either blocking or not blocking or running away.
Running away is good. The reason why I had the gentleman hold the rapier is that if you saw the movie The Princess Bride, it goes on and on and on and on, very fast, quick movements. They are not using rapiers. They're using épées, which are those long, thin wires that you see in modern sword fighting that didn't exist back then, but hey, it's a movie. So it's a lot easier to do those quick, fast, rapid movements with that kind of blade. This blade is not that quick. It was never meant to be that quick. It's a heavier weapon. So getting fine movements with your fingers, that's about it. You're not going to get much more. This one needs a little bit more arm to work. And if you're standing out here all day while somebody's reading to you about where you're going, you're like, I'm funny now. And you can see how long they are. There isn't a lot of room to do some of the movements we do without taking out your backstage or the people sitting in front. So it made it hard to pull that off.
I thank you for your straight. And again, a round of hammer for our sword master. So we have just a scant few minutes left. I think I'll just take a few. Are there any questions from the audience at this point? Yes.
Who won from all of them? Like, who won the most of them?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I think the crocodile definitely won. Any other questions?
For you guys, which one was the most realistic or reasonable fight?
Oh, that's good. Ladies first.
I don't know. I kind of like the sword master fight from Wheel of Time. I sort of like that because a lot of the analogies that he used, the words, are similar to what we study, just slightly different wording, so we can kind of figure out, he means this, and so that worked for me. I also, like I said, liked the narrative. I can make this fight whatever I want it to be, so I enjoyed that the most.
I'll take the crocodile. The hippopotamus crocodile thing. Only because he went for a quick kill as he attacked it. So, for example, when there's boar hunting, that's the medieval sport. basically the ability with kind of bore, that's to sharpen up their skills for fighting. And there are people who would have fought with just a sword to kill a boar. The boar comes by, you step to the side, and you cut the head off in one swoop, and that was done. Or you would, more cowardly, you would use a spear with a big lungs on it, so it stopped it from running towards you. But again, that's more real, though that is pretty realistic.
All right, we'll be here for the next 15 minutes. If you have any additional questions, I want to thank the St. Michael's de Arms. They can teach you how I'm Marling, and I love hearing people on journeys of imagination. I have my books for sale here right now, and also online on Amazon.com. You can come up and pick a card. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.